Disciples and worshippers of heavy metal, welcome again to the Nuclear Podblast. This is Drucifer, happy to be here once again delivering the word of nuclear blast metal. This episode we have no less than 3 interviews. We're going to speak with Scott Lewis from Carnifex, Mantis and Demolition Man from Venom Inc, and Par from Sweden's Sabaton. So what an eclectic show we've got lined up for you on this edition of the Nuclear Podblast. We'll hear brand new tracks from the Carnifex album World War X, out on August 2nd, as well as a couple from the new Sabaton album The Great War, which came out just last week. The title The Great War obviously refers to the First World War, so isn't it interesting that both bands have album titles that are referring to the subject of World War? Coincidence? Yeah, absolutely a coincidence. We'll talk about all the July releases that came out, everything in August as well, and a big September coming up for Nuclear Blast. I'll give you some vinyl reissue updates, some tour dates as well, and obviously a ton of metal, including 2 classic blast cuts on this episode. Without further ado, pharmaceuticals numb the mind, social media distracts the spirit, all while the very planet lurches towards an inevitable climate disaster that will extinguish humanity. Thy Art Is Murder's 5th album, Human Target, is certainly poised to destroy everything in its path. Now, I was curious about the title track, Human Target, which I found out is about the practice of organ harvesting in China, where the World Health Organization found a huge discrepancy in the number of organs volunteered by donors and the number of organs transplanted into the wealthy. What a fascinating subject, actually. Now, one of the more interesting song titles, Make America Hate Again, does not take a political side at all. Rather, according to the band, it's an attack against the entire political system, satirizing the expectation that any government will make things great for the masses. Against the backdrop of postmodern dystopia, chaos and confusion arrives Human Target on July 26th. This is Thy Art Is Murder, Make America Hate Again, and welcome back to the Nuclear Podblast.
My sons are on the table.
Out July 26th, the 5th album from Thy Art Is Murder, Human Target. And you heard Make America Hate Again here on the Nuclear Podblast with Drucifer, your master of metal ceremonies. I got a cut from the upcoming Destruction album out August 9th, so stick around for that. Yeah, Germany's finest, back again. Also, of course, our interview with Scott from Carnifex. We'll hear from Par from Sabaton as well. The Venom Inc guys were asked to play with the Misfits this last May in Chicago, so they came early and did a swing of dates, which started here in Colorado Springs, home of the Nuclear Podblast studio. I got a chance to see the guys at Soundcheck, which was killer, as they did a few songs that weren't in the set list later that night. And then I got to sit down with Tony and Jeff outside the Zodiac Club here in Colorado Springs. Now, I have to say first that these guys absolutely had me in stitches. They were so damned funny. It was hard to concentrate and actually start the interview. Since the debut album Ave has been out almost 2 years, we spent the time talking about the recent tour dates and when and what to expect from the second Venom Inc record. So, enjoy. Hey, it's Drucifer with the Nuclear Podblast. I'm here in beautiful Colorado Springs, my hometown, sitting here with the Demolition Man and Mantis of Venom Inc. Gentlemen, welcome to Colorado and back to the U.S.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and I love your hometown. And it feels like, it's been a couple of months because we did South America for about 2 months. And we did the Danzig run where we did Denver, Colorado. And coming back in today, it was like, oh my God, it feels like it was 5 minutes we were here, The climate's great. It's such a beautiful place. The people were so great, And of course, we came in, we saw you, and you're sitting in the middle of us, and it feels like comfortable. It feels like, it reminds me of when we went to a strip bar, and you're just between us, and it's lovely. It's a beautiful experience. Thank you.
Well, that girl had the same handlebar mustache, I must admit. And that,
she did.
And that's why I've grown mine in as well.
Was it as grey as ours? Or?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Man, how do we get serious? How do we talk about Venom? How do we do this? So, listen, you guys, this first show of this U.S. and Canadian tour, yes. 11 dates total, right?
Yes, yeah, a short run. We were very fortunate because Glenn Danzig invited us to play a run of shows. He was doing 7 shows on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. We did step into, I think we went to Albuquerque, we came to Denver, of course, and he wanted us to go on there with Power Trip and Mutod Man, and so we were very happy to go.
That was a great lineup, yeah.
And it was an amazing experience. The bands were fantastic. Glenn was just a real genius. He is a real genius. He's a real artist, but he was so kind and so generous and so sweet, and it was such fun to be on there. And when we stepped off it, we said, we should do something again. And then they put together this Misfits show for with Jerry for the Chicago,
right?
And they said, we want you guys to come up and play it. And they put Fear on there, but Power Trip too. Yeah. So it's like a reunion, if you like.
Top to bottom.
Yeah. And then I thought, well, if we're going, we might as well hit a few shows while we're here. So that's what we plotted in. Some shows in the US. We go Denver, Minneapolis. We do Chicago, of course. We then we do Kansas City tomorrow. We open in Denver tonight, and we end in New York after going through some dates in Canada. So it's a short run. We don't go anywhere south, unfortunately, but we'll be back. And then we're off to festival season. But it's really nice to come back. We just spent 2 months in South America, which is amazing.
Yeah.
From La Paz, where you can't breathe, to Brazil, where you can't get cool, to all the food and the incredible environment. But you come back to America, and it's almost like going home a bit. You go, there's like a Denny's, and there's a country kitchen, and I can have a proper coffee. And
comfort.
I like it. Yes. For the last 5 or 6 years, we've come every year, sometimes twice a year to America. And the Europeans will go, why do you keep going to America first? Like, you bring a new album,
we want you here.
We fucking want you here. Because it's like, America was always last on the list.
Yeah.
It's like France. We've been to France more than ever in the 80s. Might have went to France once in the 80s. And we go to France all the time now. And it's like, it's on our fucking doorstep. Why shouldn't we? And the American audience has been the most supportive of Venom. And the most lacking in shows You know, and you think, fucking, there's all these fans who spent all this investment in Venom. It's been significant in so many ways to them, and they've had the least experience of Venom shows. So with Venom Inc, we get to come over. Okay, it's not the original lineup and stuff, but you get what you get, and we deliver everything we've got. And there's a new audience, and this is their time, you know, the young kids.
Well, Jeff, compare it, you know, touring in the U.S. and seeing these young metalheads now. Does that remind you of like '85 and the times where you were here way in the early part of the band?
To be perfectly honest, I think it's even more intense now than it was back then. You know, I've got to be honest and say, you know, with age comes experience, and I think all those years ago, you know, coming to America the first time in '83, and then, you know, we toured in '85. I think we came back in '86 again, something like that. I don't know. I think maybe we took it a little bit for granted. Myself and Tony were talking about it, and it's like, you know, back in those days with the original lineup of Venom, we didn't have to work very hard for anything. Yeah. Because it all just landed on us. It came to us. It was almost like, I've said this a million times, that, you know, the world was ready for something different at that point when Welcome to Hell came out.
Absolutely.
The world was ready, and the stars aligned, and everything pointed to Newcastle and hit Venom. It could have been any band. It could have been anybody, but I mean, it just so happened to be us. And at that point, we didn't have to. I mean, we did a few, small club shows and community centres in Newcastle at that point. But I remember rehearsing in a horrible old church hall in the west end of Newcastle, in a really rough area, on a Saturday afternoon. And the following Saturday afternoon, we were in a sports hall in Belgium in front of 3,000 kids. That was our first show. It was like, what the fuck? We hadn't a clue what was going on. We didn't know what the hell was going on, but it just seemed natural. I'm nearly finished writing the book that I got asked to write. And there's a part where I do actually say that, in my personal opinion, we had the world at our feet and we fucked it up royally. You know, we made every mistake in the big book of mistakes.
Well, I wanted to ask because, you know, obviously with there being still a Venom and Venom Inc, you know, it's no doubt where the true integrity of the original band lies. But when it comes to writing new music, is it just as important to you to satisfy that old school fan base and keep that old school integrity as much as it is writing good new music and good new songs?
Well, when it comes to the music, I'm old school, full stop. Yeah. So when I write songs, I'm all about melodies and hook lines and fucking choruses. You know, because we've played Countess Bathory every country on the planet, and to hear a Chinese audience singing Countess Bathory, it's like, it's incredible. You know, we've got big sing-along choruses and everything, and I try to do that on here as well. On Alve, I wanted those hook lines, I wanted those things that draw you in, I wanted those things in the songs which turn the songs into the fans' possessions. It's, you know, this is for the fans. It's like, this is my heart and soul here. I wrote everything on this fucking thing, and then you've got to throw it away. You've got to put it out there. It's like sending your children out into the world and just hoping that they do well.
Well, speaking of new music, it's been a year and a half since Ave. So you're playing some new songs tonight. When are we going to hear this next record?
Well, the first purpose was to get, what we wanted to do was we wanted to finish last year, and then we had a gap over the Christmas, so get recording and writing, finish the recording, and then look for March is where I was targeting. But Nuclear Blast very kindly said, because, you know, they have release times, but they said that you can release whenever you want. So I was like, oh, that's brilliant. We're not tied down to a particular time. And I was supposed to have an operation for a new hip that got delayed, which then delayed us because it was like, what the fuck are we doing? And by the time we could have started finishing everything, we were off to South America for 2 months. And now we have a heavy festival season. We have Japan, Australia, we have VAC and Hellfest. Of course, we got this run built around there, and then we have to do Europe in September. So it's like, you know, the operation will happen after the last shows, and then we'll just focus on the album till next year. So I want December, so I think we'll put it out in December. We'll make it like it's our Christmas album. We've never done a Christmas album, have we?
Besides the Christmas album, come on, do you have a title for it?
Merry Christmas.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Merry fucking
Merry
Christmas,
fucking Christmas.
We're radical, Merry fucking Christ.
Listen, it's great to have you guys on the show finally, because actually, I'll play it for you when we're done. The intro music to Black and Roll is the intro music to all the podcasts that I've done.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah, man. The bass and that's great. Yeah. So appreciate you sitting down and taking the time here. First show of the new U.S. run, so we'll look out for the end of the year, hopefully, for the follow-up to Ave.
Yeah.
And thanks for taking time on the Nuclear Podblast.
Venom Inc!
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
This is the Nuclear Podblast. Get more info at nuclearblast.com.
Born to Perish, the title track from the new Destruction record, out August 9th. Schmear and Mike back at it again with new drummer Randy Black and shredmaster Damir Eskik. So a new lineup for the Destruction guys, and marks a new chapter for the band. Destruction have managed to keep their thrash metal relevant, and Born to Perish certainly won't disappoint the band's legions of fans. This is Drucifer and the Nuclear Podblast. Thank you once again for joining us, and thanks to the Nuclear Blast North American office for letting me yell at you about heavy metal. Interestingly enough, the Misfits are doing some dates here in September around the country with the Cro-Mags, and back in May of 1989, I saw the Cro-Mags and Destruction play at the somewhat famous Outhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, a cinder block building in the middle of a cornfield 4 miles from any sign of civilization. The second Cro-Mags album, Best Wishes, wasn't released yet, and Harley Flanagan was outside the tour bus when we pulled into the parking lot, so we got to say hello to Harley and hear a couple of songs that he was blasting from the tour bus from the Best Wishes record. The show was just absolute mayhem, and there was definitely a separation between the hardcore and underground metal crowds. Now, looking back, that was quite possibly the first hardcore metal crossover international tour on North American soil. So for me, it'll be really interesting to see Harley's Cro-Mags after 30 years of seeing my first show. Let's look back at all the July releases for Nuclear Blast, just in case you missed anything. The Turilli Lione Rhapsody album, Zero Gravity, hit stores and online July 5th. The live and mental digital-only release from Suicide Silence came out on the 12th of July. Now, that was the show recorded in December of 2015, a special benefit show in support of Mental Health America of Los Angeles at the Observatory in Santa Ana. So if you're a fan of Suicide Silence, it's a badass show. You probably already have it. Sabaton, of course, and the Great War just came out July 19th. Human Target from Thy Art is Murder, July 26th. And looking into August, of course, Carnifex kicks things off on the 2nd with World War X. You're going to hear 2 tracks from that record coming up soon. Welcome to Paradise from North Tail also comes out August 2nd. Destruction's Born to Perish, as we mentioned, August 9th. Renegades from Equilibrium out August 16th. And Dawn of the Dragon Star, also August 16th, from Twilight Force. Here's a track from that Rhapsody record, Zero Gravity, that came out early in July. This is DNA, Demon and Angel, and I've got a classic blast cut coming for you just after that here on the Nuclear Podblast.
This is the Nuclear Podblast.
When night is day, the people live in fear.
Yeah, classic blast cut from Exodus, the Tempo of the Damned record, released 15 years ago in 2004. That was Impaler, of course co-written by Kirk Hamster of Metallica. So yeah, Exodus, 15 years ago. That was the comeback album for the band, released exactly 2 years after the death of original vocalist Paul Bailoff, who was in the band at the time of his passing. They had a run of West Coast dates booked before Bailoff's death, and within less than 10 days' notice, Zetro stepped in and fulfilled those live dates. I was at one of those shows in a small club in Orange County with maybe 75 people in attendance. It was a pretty low time for the band, but how cool was it that Zet stepped in to save the day? Yeah, 75 people at the most. Speaking of Exodus, new album in the works, of course, as Gary Holt finishes the very last Slayer shows here in America. I'll actually see the tour here in Colorado just a few days before the final show at the Forum in LA. And can you believe that the end is actually near? And speaking of Slayer, on the vinyl end of things, the 666 Gold Vinyl Edition via Nuclear Blast mail order. This limited collector's box dissects the band's pummeling studio masterpiece into 6 collectible gold 6.66-inch discs. Also includes an oversized 16-page booklet, all within a deluxe box, limited and numbered to 2,000 copies, exclusive to Nuclear Blast mail order for only €35. Not bad. Primal Fear has a 7-inch Crucify Me. It's a gold vinyl 7-inch out now. And Death is Just the Beginning 2018, limited to 500 lush box sets, including atomic green vinyls in a double gatefold sleeve, CD, patch, and poster. Very cool. And you can find all of that over at nuclearblastusa.com. You know, I gotta be honest, I discovered Sabaton's music several records ago. I've always thought the historical aspect that they bring to heavy metal is totally cool. The albums are super over the top, of course, obviously impressive, but I never saw the band live until last year when they toured North America with Creator in support, and I mean, I was just blown away. Forget what I knew about, the band's music at all. Just seeing that sort of energy come from the stage and a good crowd to be able to give it back to them was awesome, man. So I actually look forward to seeing the band again in North America this tour. It was very cool to speak to Par, bassist and songwriter of the band. Got a lot of insight, of course, on the new record, and just a real nice soul to talk to. Very cool. So this is part 1 of the interview with Par from Sabaton, and it's the Nuclear Podblast. Back with the Nuclear Podblast. This is Drucifer, and such a charming welcome from Par from Sabaton, bassist, lyricist, and original member. Thank you so much for joining the Nuclear Podblast today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to be speaking with you. I mean, I've known Sabaton's music for several records, but only saw you live for the first time last year here in North America with Creator, and your energy from the stage combined with the crowd energy that they were giving back was just intense. Man, that was a great tour package.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it was a nice tour, and I think that now you are one of our new listeners in America then, but we have been around for 20 years. It's just that America is kind of getting aware of what Sabaton is.
Sure.
And that is pretty nice for us. And it gives us also a pretty nice dynamic thing into our touring, from the arenas that we do in Europe to the venues and the clubs that we do in North America. So it puts a nice perspective and dynamics into our touring.
I mean, speaking of touring, you've got some great festival appearances coming up. You've got U-Rock in Umeå, Sweden. You've got Wacken, of course, Bloodstock in the UK, the Sabaton Open Air in Sweden, of course. And then we get you here in North America for 22 shows in early October. Now, with this being the 20th anniversary of the band, I'd like to think that you guys have something special planned, especially for the larger festival appearances.
Yeah, there is something very special going on. I mean, we are the main headliner at Wacken Open Air this year, and it's the biggest heavy metal festival in the entire world, and we are taking both 2 main stages at the same time, headlining.
Wow.
So we are doing a double show for 2 hours on the 2 main stages. Exactly what we're going to do, it's too early for me to announce, but we're preparing something extremely special for this night.
Again, with the American audiences, just coming around on the last few records, it's got to be pretty cool watching that groundswell happen even though, again, you've been established for so many records now.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the evolution in America. It's been a place where people didn't believe in Sabaton, and it's been a place where a lot of people said, no, you're screwed, forget about North America, your music doesn't belong there, and this kind of stuff. And I like to prove people wrong, and I think that the upcoming tour would definitely prove people wrong in that case. Some people said, oh, these venues are too big for you to play and stuff like that. When they can watch when everything's going to be sold out in a while.
Now, your last album, The Last Stand, featured the single The Last Battalion, which of course is about the World War I military unit. Now, did the success of that song and that record sort of inspire you to focus an entire album on the Great War itself, or was this something that you perhaps had planned previously?
Yeah, we have planned it for several years. We have been singing about World War I for many years. I mean, the first one being in 2006 and the Angels Calling song. And we like this era in history. It's very interesting for us to cover. So we thought about it for a long time. And then obviously coming up to the 100 years anniversary of the Armistice Day of World War I, we thought, okay, if there's some time in history when the collision between an album and a historical event is good, it's this one now. So we put all our other ideas that we had on hold for the future, and we decided to focus on World War I for this album.
Musically, The Great War is pure Sabaton. It's bombastic, amazing heavy metal. It's got all the band's trademarks. They're executed superbly. The melodies, the riffs and solos, the keyboards, the drumming and vocals, everything is there. It's got some super intense moments and some versatility as well. But with such a focused lyrical theme, does that affect the overall focus of the music itself?
Okay, so in this case, sort of, yes, a little bit maybe that it shapes the whole idea, because we knew about the topic before we write the songs. So yes, you can maybe hear that the album is a little bit darker than for example, The Last Stand or Heroes, which are very uplifting albums. And this one is a bit darker. So yeah, the topic probably did a little bit of a change in that. But first of all, we write heavy metal songs and then we adapt the historical lyrics to them. So the songs will turn out whatever they turn out anyway, and then we just have to find a story that connects to the specific song. And in this case, of course, having a topic so big as World War I, there are plenty of stories within, so we can easily find something to adapt to each type of music that we write. But we do not intentionally write songs because of a specific topic.
Understood. Well, you guys did 5 albums with the legendary Peter Tägtgren, of course, but you decided to do something different this time. So tell us about the production and why you chose to go somewhere different.
We have been doing a lot of songs and different productions with Jonas, who is our studio engineer on the upcoming album. Jonas is a good friend of ours. He sits in the same building as Peter, and that's why we've been working a lot with him in the past as well. He has a little bit of a separate, different approach towards how he works, but they're both two super talented persons, and we have done, as I said, several recordings with him in the past, and it turned out that a lot of fans have really liked them a lot, and they were like, oh, we wish that you do more with Jonas because it sounds great. And we listened to our fans, and we went and did a whole album with Jonas and see how it went, and now we will see the judgment of the fans if they prefer this or prefer Peter. But we are fine working with anybody, and we enjoy both of them. They are both close friends. They are both great engineers. So,
well, along with the 7 Pillars of Wisdom, the first video track, The Fields of Verdun, is one of the more aggressive songs on the album, with some intricate and compelling verses and a chorus that just runs you over.
Fields of Verdun, we thought, okay, it was none of the band's favorite song on the album. It was not nearly that. It was just a song we felt like this represents the spirit of the album in some way, and the topic really represents the album. So that's why we wanted to do it that way, and we also held our album presentation in Verdun, and it was one of the sceneries which is most important for the background of the album. But when it comes to musical, the song Fields of Verdun was on our low part of the album for each and every band member. But we still decided, let's do it, because it's a typical heavy metal song, and it speaks a lot of Sabaton. But I think that we were all aware that we had stronger songs coming, and that's what we wanted it to be.
Understood.
And Seven Pillars of Wisdom is one of the strongest songs, for sure. I have to agree on that. And it was, musically, it came to be probably one of our favorite songs in the band for the moment.
From home, a man with a mission, in the heat of the glistening sun, in the heart of ancient tradition, this man's journey has only begun. Lead the charge, a raider has entered the battlefield. Sabotage, the game is about to unfold. As the darkness falls and Arabia calls, one spreads his wings as the battle begins. May the land lay claim unto Lawrence name. Seven pillars of wisdom lights the flame. Our goals to gain independence, hide and seek hunters hot to the trail. Join the ranks, obtain their acceptance. Side by side raid the Ottoman rail. Lead the charge, Viva Medina, Damascus calls. Sabotage, demolish the bridges to dust. As the darkness falls and Arabia calls, one spreads his wings as the battle begins. May the land lay claim unto Lawrence name. Seven pillars of wisdom lights the flame. After the war has been won, deception or treason, who can tell? Who stood to gain, who stood to lose, who did the dying? Betrayal and trust from within, or compelled. The pillars of wisdom can tell. Back home where a new life awaits, whispers are past, the sands of Arabia calling.
Well, there's no hiding the John Lord and Deep Purple influence on the Red Baron, the intro as well as throughout the song.
Yeah, it was, when we were playing once in a sound check, we were just playing around a little bit and having fun. And we played our song Ghost Division, but we played it in this like shuffle version or something like that. And we thought, oh, this sounds pretty cool. And then I guess Joachim got an idea there. Okay, and adding Hammond organ to it, and then there we are. And
well, I really like this sort of disco intro on Attack of the Dead Men, the song about the fortress in northeast Poland that saw heavy fighting between the Russian and German armies. That song is really compelling, and once the chorus kicks in, to me, it's one of the more driving parts of the album. That proves to be one of my favorite songs overall, and another that made me brush up on my Great War history. Now, what kind of satisfaction is there for you knowing that so many fans dig back into our world's history because of your songs and your albums?
And the song Attack of the Dead Men, it's got a good story. Several years ago, already for the Heroes album, the music for this one was written. Okay. But it doesn't sound any heroic at all. So we put it aside for the future when we're going to do something dark and mysterious. And then we were like, okay, we're going to do an album about World War I. Okay, we need to somehow cover the usage of chemical warfare. And then we love the story, Attack of the Dead Men, the defense of Auschwitz Fortress. It's such an interesting story. And then we thought, okay, but it's kind of a mysterious, it's kind of a dark story, so we needed this kind of song, and we knew we already had it back from Heroes time, so we just wrapped it up, finished it up, and adapted lyrics to it, and there we go. And I like that, you know, if you think back, if the song inspired you to go look for some historical facts, I think that we have sort of succeeded in one of the side missions of the band Sabaton. It's not our main priority to teach people about history. Our main priority is to play heavy metal and fun. But there is this side effect of it, and I see no bad in it. I see only good positive things in it. I do not believe that you can learn so much from just a song, because a song has, 3-4 minutes of lyrics, which is like a little bit poetic written and don't tell the full event. If we would tell the full story, it would be a long and very boring song. But they do inspire people to go and search and dig deeper and learn from themselves. And hopefully it does inspire them to go and check out the Sabaton History channel, which we launched in February this year.
That's right.
Where we are actually making documentaries about each and every song.
You know, the history edition of the album is a really nice, a neat idea, along with the Sabaton History channel. You guys are really up in the game with how you interact with and, like you said, even educate your fans without whether they want it or not. But what else can we expect too?
Yeah, there's way more coming with the Sabaton History channel. We are developing it constantly, and it's just in the beginning, so to say. We have released now 21 episodes, and it's just in the beginning of what this channel on YouTube will be eventually. And if fans allow us to keep developing it, we will.
Per Sundstrom from Sabaton, thanks so much, man. Congratulations on the Great War out worldwide, July 19th. We look forward to seeing you guys back here in North America for another big run. And, just best of luck. I see you have dates booked all through even April. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Denver when you come back around in October, okay?
All right, super.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Wilhelm's forces on the hunt. There's a thunder in the east. It's an attack of the disease. They've been blazing poison gas. 7,000 charge en masse. Turn the tide of the attack and force the enemy to turn back. And that's when the dead men are marching again. Also jetzt then and again, attack of the dead. 100 men facing the lead. Once again, 100 men charge again, die again. Also jetzt then and again, attack of the dead. 100 men facing the lead. Once again, 100 men charge again, die again. To combat and spar, Hindenburg against the Tsar, moving 12 battalions large into a Russian countercharge. They'll be fighting for their lives as the enemy revives. Russians won't surrender, no, striking fear into their foe. And that's when the dead men are marching again. Also jetzt, then and again, attack of the dead. 100 men facing the lead. Once again, 100 men charge again, die again. Also jetzt, then and again, attack of the dead. 100 men facing the lead. Once again, 100 men charge again, die
Attack of the Dead Men, easily my favorite track from the new Sabaton record. The Great War, out last week, and a big thanks to Par from the band for taking the time out a couple of weeks back. Such a pleasure to talk to that guy. Such a positive presence. I had a great time interviewing him, and hopefully you liked it as well, all things Skype aside. Before Attack of the Dead Men, 7 Pillars of Wisdom. Again, such a strong track. And can't wait to see the band return to North American soil. They've got dates lined up for almost a year around the world. Crazy. I mentioned that September was going to be a huge month for Nuclear Blast releases, starting with Black Star Riders. Now, the video for Ain't the End of the World is out now, and the new album, Another State of Grace, in stores and online September 6th. Frontman Ricky Warwick comments, Ain't the End of the World is trademark Black Star Riders, showcasing the dual guitars of Christian Martucci and Scott Gorham perfectly. It's a song of hope, positivity, and seeing the light at the end of a dark tunnel in a world of uncertainty. I'm in for that. The 69 Eyes have a new record, West End, out September 13th. Those Finnish goth and roll icons have been around for almost 30 years and have more than one platinum album under their belts overseas. To quote them directly, we're the band that time forgot. We're the band that refuses to die. We're the Helsinki Vampires. Another one I can't wait for, the Michael Schenker Fest Revelation album, September 20th. To quote Schenker, there's a deep meaning in the title and album cover of the new Michael Schenker Fest album. It illustrates my musical life at a glance, with much to be revealed. Because of that, I called the album Revelation. Another title for this album could have been Purity and Passion versus Greed and Corruption, end quote. The album was recorded during the wake of Ted McKenna's passing, ex-drummer for the band, a month before he was scheduled to record his drum tracks. McKenna played on the debut Michael Schenker Fest album Resurrection last year, and originally played with the Michael Schenker Group from 1982 to 1984. 10 of the tracks on Revelation were recorded by the legendary Simon Phillips on drums, and 3 were recorded by former Macaulay Schenker Group drummer Bodo Scoff. Revelation is produced by Michael Voss, who also worked with Schenker on the Resurrection album, and the album will once again feature the 4 vocalists, Robin McCauley, Gary Barden, Graham Bonnet, all formerly of the Michael Schenker Group, and of course Doogie White, who's been working with Schenker over the last couple of decades, and was featured on the Temple of Rock albums. So again, Michael Schenker Fest Revelation, September 20th. The name Exhorder, Southern Metal Masters. 2 legendary albums, Slaughter in the Vatican and The Law, in 1990 and 1992 respectively. What a legacy for such a short time around and only 2 releases. You may have heard over the last few decades how people cite Pantera as ripping off Exhorder in their early days. I wouldn't argue that, but their time was cut short, and the resurrection of this band and this new album is highly anticipated. The new video, My Time, is out now, and the album is titled Mourn the Southern Skies and will be out September 20th. The band is touring with Cataclysm, and founding Exhorder guitarist Vinny LaBella says of their resurgence, you can plot and scheme for years, even decades, as in our case. You can work hard, keep grinding, bang the square peg in the round hole until it looks somewhat presentable. But sometimes you just need to let time tell you, and it's time. Check nuclearblastusa.com as well as Exhorder's socials for those tour dates with Cataclysm. And I remember seeing Exhorder way back in 1992. Man, I always seem to date myself somehow in the Podblast, but, damn it, I've seen a lot of great shows in my years. Yeah, 1992, Entombed and Exhorder touring America, and this was in Wichita, Kansas. Maybe 100 people in the place. My friend and I got there just in time for the opening band to wrap up their set, and Exhorder comes on and plays 6 songs, maybe 30 minutes, and calls it quits. And from what I remember, after the tour ended just a couple of weeks later, the band disbanded. So 27 years in the making, this reunion, and this third record, Mourn the Southern Skies, again out September 20th. Exhorder, wow man, they're back. And Opeth are back as well. The new single, Heart in Hand, In Cauda Venenum, September 22nd is when that record comes out. I know I butchered that. I apologize to Michael, the band, and everybody else. In Cauda Venenum. Recorded last year at Stockholm's Park Studios, the album will be released in 2 versions in both Swedish and English. And now about the song Heart in Hand, Michael Ackerfeld says, I guess it's one of the more straightforward songs on the album. A rather rocking little thing. It's got one of the happy mistakes in it too. Mendez had a bass breakdown in the middle of the recording. At the time he played an old Hofner Beatles-esque bass guitar that started humming real bad. But it sounded so good we immediately decided to keep it in there. Opeth's still hot on the Garden of the Titans live release, recorded here in Colorado at Red Rocks Amphitheater. So again, the new album, September 27th, In Cauda Venenum. So I hope you're saving your money for September because you're going to need it. Third interview of the Podblast for this episode, Scott Lewis of Carnifex. What a cool guy to talk to, man. Never met the guy in my life. I've seen Carnifex play a couple of times and hope you enjoy the interview. We'll kick this off, though, with the title track from the new record, August 2nd. It's World War X on the Podblast. Back with the Nuclear Podblast. This is Drucifer and Scott Lewis, Carnifex, with us. Thanks, man, for taking the time.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Well, 7 albums in. Congratulations on that alone. With 4 members going back to at least 2007, it's no wonder why you guys have been able to write such a focused but very layered release here with World War X.
Yeah, for us, this one, it was really about just taking the time that we needed and really having everything on our terms, so we spent 44 days in the studio with Jason, and I spent about 3 weeks tracking my vocals with McKinney out here in Huntington Beach. And, for us, it was really just about, we had a lot of ambition, and we knew it was going to take a lot of work to see that ambition through. So we just put that time in through the writing process, and then again in the studio, and we couldn't be happier with what came out of it.
One thing I've always liked about the band is that you've never shied away from the deathcore staple. You rather embrace it. It is what we are, and you've just tried to improve on that. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, wearing thinner and thinner as your records go on. I mean, as far as the stereotypes, I guess, associated with the genre. Because this album, there's less breakdowns, more interesting nuances and subtleties and moods. And honestly, the pronunciation in your vocals as well, I think there's a little more clarity. So again, I just think this totally ups the ante, not for the band, but for the whole genre in general.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's interesting. We kind of have the interesting relationship with deathcore. When we started in 2005, deathcore wasn't a thing. Right. So our first records, I guess by definition of us being there at the time and it coming up around us, they were some of the first deathcore records. So we never wrote to the genre, just like when we wrote the first record, there wasn't the genre, and I think so the genre's kind of interaction with us is really more dependent on what everyone else is up to. And I think at this point, you've seen most of the deathcore bands pretty much fall off, other than, us and Die Art and Whitechapel. So I think, people are embracing us as sort of these sort of patron saints and saviors of deathcore, but at the same time, it's kind of not a deathcore record. So I don't know. I'll kind of pretty much just let people decide what they want to call it at this point.
Sure. The title, World War X, its title track kicks off the record. Did you lead off with the record because it's a title track, or to me, it kind of exemplifies the record as a whole? You tell me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it exactly. When we wrote that song, that song was written by John. When we knew early on, that was a song that was very representative of the album that we wanted to write. So I think that was the second or third song that we wrote, but we knew early on, this one here, this is what we want to go for. Something that's in this vein, And the big long intro, we sort of built that off where the song was initially, once we knew we wanted to have it at the front of the record. And it does exactly what you said. Yeah, I think it is a really great jumping off point for the entire album.
Some of the songs in particular, the groove that starts out on Visions of the End and the variations of tempos on that song kind of make it a favorite of mine. But again, also the vocal clarity and the powerful chorus. No Light Shall Save Us with Alyssa from Arch Enemy, obviously a standout on the record, not just with her vocal additions, but the song kind of has a little bit different vibe to it as well.
Yeah, that song was written by Jordan, and he went for it on that one, and that was something that we really loved about this record, was that we came off of Slow Death with so much great energy from the fans. Really embraced that record and really embraced the band kind of in general, not just the album outselling previous records, which is crazy when you think about the climate of record sales, but it did. And then just our response on the road, we just had so much, I think we felt very inspired. And so, Jordan in particular, he's an amazing guitarist, and he just had a lot he wanted to say musically. And so he went for it. And, bringing in Lisa and her contributions to the song, and then what I tried to do lyrically, I think it was just everybody was really at the top of their game, just really swinging for the fences.
Well, the use of keyboards seems to be more developed than ever before. They still don't detract or, I guess, distract from the other instruments. They don't upstage anything, and that's the difference, I think. They seem to be more rhythmically, not just a secondary pulse, but a pulse to go along with the drums at times and the accents. So I just think you guys have upped your game with that as well.
Yeah, and it's where Jason put them in the recording as well, which was careful and something that we went back and forth a lot on. Because, like on a song like, Light, I mean, there's like, if you look at that Pro Tools session, there's like 124 tracks in that. So what you said about them being along the lines of being rhythmic, it was really interesting because oddly, like where he put them in the mix was right along with those instruments, with the bass guitar and with the drums. And I think that's why they're not a detractor, because those things are, when you're doing a mix, those are your foundations. And then you layer it with, your guitars are a little brighter, your leads are a little brighter, your vocals are a little brighter. And so I think where Jason chose to put them in the mix was very smart too, and that played a big role in them not being like kind of this weird tacked on thing.
As far as other tracks that stand out to me, Brushed by the Wings of Demons, that melodic soloing in there is just fantastic. But I wanted to ask you, they're all your babies, so hard to choose, but pick a song on the record that maybe stands out to you that's not a single, and give us a reason why.
That's not a single. Okay, so that would dismiss Visions of the End then. That's our third single. So,
okay.
Which is a fave of mine, and I'm glad that you responded to it, because that's the third track we're putting out.
Gotcha.
But I would say it would probably be pretty close tie between This Infernal Darkness and By Shadows Thine Held, because... So This Infernal Darkness was written by Sean, and By Shadows Thine Held was written by Jordan. But I think both those songs really exemplify where those guys are at with their songwriting. And so I was just excited to be a part of them. And I think I'm proud of those songs because they really show this side of the band that I think is pretty in-depth. Those songs go a lot of places. And we broke a lot of our own rules doing it, but we still were able to write some songs that I think were pretty fantastic. So I would pick those two as my sort of, inside cuts in my picks.
Gotcha. Well, after 2 runs previously on the Summer Slaughter tour, it must be exciting to be a headliner on this year's package.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, doing the tour over the years and then to come back and be asked to be a headliner was super awesome for us. And that it's with a record we're really excited about was just, that much, just going to make it that much better of a summer.
Yeah, you get 2 weeks to deliver new material before anybody can buy the record. That's always great to deliver brand new music that kids have never heard before.
Yeah, we really can't wait to play those songs live, and it's. I think we, honestly started writing like World War X, the song, probably like 2.5 years ago. So it's fun to finally be able to play it.
There you go. Well, over the course of 7 albums, how have you seen the crowds change during your show? And I don't mean how they react or how crazy they get in the pit, but rather like the demographics and the ages and things like that over these years.
Well, they've grown up with us, that's for sure. There was a time when youth larges were one of our most popular sales. Now it's extra large.
There you go.
But yeah, I think people have grown up for sure. But we also are seeing a lot of new people. When we did Warped Tour, it was like we've been a band for 13 years at that point. But I felt like every person I talked to said, "Oh, I just heard of you. Where are you guys signed? Where did you come from?" Which was amazing to me. But because we got so many great fans from doing tours like that. So it's kind of this mix of the old school fans that have really just stuck with us from the beginning, and then we picked up people from when we toured with Obituary and toured with Fintroll, and then we pick up Warped Tour kids. So it's like it is an eclectic group at our shows for sure.
Scott Lewis, thanks so much, man, for taking time out for the Nuclear Podblast. Congratulations on World War X out worldwide August 2nd. You guys are kicking off the Summer Slaughter Tour July 20th. Denver, an hour from where I am, so I look forward to seeing you there, man.
Okay, man, I'll see you at the show. Thanks for having me.
This is the Nuclear Podblast. Get more info at nuclearblast.com.
This Infernal Darkness from the Carnifex record World War X out August 2nd. Thanks very much to Scott Lewis for checking in. That was a great interview, very straightforward, and look forward to seeing the band on the Summer Slaughter Tour. We're going to wrap up this edition of the Nuclear Podblast with a classic blast cut from Dimmu Borgir. The 20th anniversary of Spiritual Black Dimensions was this year. And at the time, Century Media and Nuclear Blast were, of course, separate before they joined forces for 10 years. So we're talking spring of 1999. And at Century Media, we were set to release the Emperor record 9 Equilibrium, which we obviously thought was the greatest black metal offering in existence. But as maybe about a month before the release, we also got word that the new Dimmu Borgir album, Spiritual Black Dimensions, would be released a week before the Emperor record. And then we heard a copy, and we were like, oh man. So to think about those two records coming out a week apart from each other, simultaneously blowing up each band in North America, what a time. So this is a track coming from the Death Is Just the Beginning 5 compilation, and was a bonus track on the Japanese version of Spiritual Black Dimensions at the time, back before all bonus tracks were available everywhere, so you had to get that exclusive Japanese copy to get this song. This is Masses for a New Messiah, and I'm Drucifer, thanking you for joining the Nuclear Podblast. We'll see you in late September, hopefully, and thanks for being so metal.
Thanks for checking out the Nuclear Podblast. Music to mangle your minds.